Hi there, May Flaum here, and I am so excited to welcome you into my world of mixed media creating. Now, if you're new to it, or if the term mixed media has scared you off in the past, please don't worry. You're gonna have so much fun in this class. We're gonna create so many wonderful things. So first of all, what is mixed media? What do people mean when they say it? My definition of mixed media is that simple. We're mixing and matching mediums. It could be watercolor with inks, it could be pastes with stencils, with paints, anything you like. And because what we're really doing is mixing different mediums from paints to pastes to everything in between, we can absolutely make it for any style, any type of project. We can work in our planners and create fun stuff with, in this example, gold leafing, and I've got some different stenciling and fun stuff going on. We can make canvases or photo projects with paste and all kinds of fun things. We can make cards, we can decorate art journals. The options are truly limitless, and you can spend a lot of time, or this is something that you can fit into a very busy schedule as well. Now, for getting started, if you're just beginning, I would recommend that you start with testing things. There are two different ways that I would recommend that you begin for if you're just testing out new products or products that you have that you're not really sure how to use. The first would be grab yourself an art journal of some kind. You're gonna want it to have nice, thick paper, and you can fill it with experiments. Just because we're calling it an art journal, you don't have to create finished projects in here. It's your sketchbook. You can here's one where I was just testing Dina Wakley sticks, the scribble sticks, and I'm just testing on gesso, not on gesso, wet, dry. This can be a safe place to just create, and you don't have to worry about if you're messing it up. You don't have to worry about the finished project because this is like your sketchbook. The other option, if you don't have a journal or don't want one, take some heavyweight cardstock or some cards and bind them together on a ring and make yourself a little tag book. What I really like to do is write down on the back what technique I used or what products I used to keep track of it. Then when I need inspiration, I've got a little book either full of experiments like this one, or if you finish your tags, if you make finished creations, you can go like this. And then when you need a gift tag, when you want to turn a tag into a card or incorporate it into another project, you can pull from here. Now that's just a little getting started. Now what I'm going to do is show you a couple of mediums and how I like to apply them. First, let's talk about texture mediums. Now I'm going to call them texture, although some of them won't be as much as others. First up, gesso. Plain gesso, I like to think of it as a primer. When you apply it, you can apply it thick. As you can see, much like acrylic paint, it does have a nice body to it. It will hold up. You can also use a paintbrush, you can use a brayer, or you could use a palette knife. I'll show you a palette knife in a minute to apply. If you're using it as a background, you're only going to need to put a very thin coat, and it should dry very quickly. Why would you put this as a background or a base? You could do that onto paper. You could be doing this onto wood, onto canvas, here is a chipboard with book with gesso coating first. You would want to do that if you want a base coat. You also would do this. This will create a non-porous surface. So back to the first page that I did here, what it will do is things will blend a little differently because the color mediums are not going to absorb into the paper because that is blocking it. Now we'll talk more about that in a future lesson. Let's move on to other mediums. We also have modeling, or sometimes called molding paste. This is going to be, I call this my crafty peanut butter, and I like to use a palette knife with it. I prefer, this is the Light and Fluffy Crafters Workshop Ranger Makes Texture Paste. They're essentially the same product. You see how thick it is? It works really nice for stenciling, but you can also, I like a palette knife to apply it. I find that that just gives me a really good coating. You can play with texture. As you can see, I can pull it down so that there's very, very little, or I can make a lot. I can also use absolutely anything, including a paper towel. Touch it with a paper towel and lift, and I can texture it. I can make textures. I can stencil with it. There's a lot of different scenarios where we want that paste. And again, we will explore this in future lessons. Third, and finally, let's talk about gel mediums. Gel mediums in general are going to, they may appear white, but they're going to dry clear. Now, there are usually two different kinds, glossy and matte. Glossy being that when it dries, it's going to be glossy. Matte finish will be matte finish. Now, it's thick like the paste, but it's going to dry clear. And you can see it's going to be naturally, because it's not a paste, because it's a gel, it's going to tend to be a little bit smoother in applying. And as you can see here, we're playing with that a little bit. As these dry, and as we'll see in future lessons though, they're going to be very different once totally dry. Now both of these, actually all of these, you can use a heat tool to speed up the drying process, but gel medium is going to take the longest. It's also going to not be able to fully be heat set. You're going to need to give it a little bit of time, just the way it works. If you try to heat it fully, it's going to start to overheat before it can actually dry. Now on to color mediums. I will be working with water reactive mediums is how I'm going to describe them. Water reactive meaning when water comes in contact with these mediums, they're going to react. These are some Prima watercolors. Prima watercolors, any watercolors that you have are a lot of fun because you can color over products. You can also blend and mix colors, create new colors. They're a lot of fun and pretty compact. They're also more of a sheer color. If you're looking for something that's more opaque, then you might want to get into acrylic paints. Now, acrylic paints, they can be different. They can be different thicknesses, different colors, different consistencies. This particular one is just a standard acrylic paint. You can see it's got beautiful color, but you can also see that it's going to cover a lot more fully than, say, a watercolor where it's going to be more sheer. There's not a right and a wrong here. It's just going to be what works for you. You can also get into, these are the Prima Sparks paints. These are highly, highly metallic paints. There's a lot of, well, sparks and sparkle. These are going to be a lot of fun. They're a little softer. You see how the body of this acrylic paint is not as heavy as the other? You're going to find variety product to product. You're going to find that some products work better for you. You prefer some. There's a lot of personal preference when it comes to mixed media. And it's going to be my goal in this class to show you a lot of different options, but also hopefully guide you in some products that will work for you. Now, the only other thing I haven't covered, well, not the only thing, but the other main type of color is spray color. Spray color, generally speaking, is going to be more sheer like watercolor, and you can apply it by spraying directly. You can also remove the cap and flick some color on if you'd like. You could also put some down on your mat, like so, and then use a paintbrush or even mix with paint to pick up and play with and make something totally new. We have a lot of options and we have a lot of ground to cover in this class. Now that we have talked a little bit about what mixed media is and how we can play with it, it's time to get started. So, I'm inviting you to join me in all of these lessons here in class to create. Remember, substitutions are always welcome. Use what you have, or if you find something during this class, which you might, that you've just got to have, remember that you can always shop for it here. I hope that you are inspired to get creating and test the limits with your own mixed media creations. Let's get started on our journey.